You are live, okay?
Should I start?
A very good evening to everyone. I hope I'm clearly audible. So we will begin with our training session for I.R.M.U.N Corona 10.0. Extending a very warm welcome to everyone virtually, and thank you for joining this session. And I hope you all find it useful and have a fruitful conference with us. Okay, so let's go ahead. What is Model United Nations, MUN? So let me just read out the pointers on the screen. Replica of UN, discussion, debate, negotiation, diplomacy, find solutions to problems. Now, before I go ahead, if y'all are just started, in secondary, it would be better if you all would sit for this training session with your parents so you all can clarify your doubts along with them, as well as if they have any questions, we can answer them as well. All right. So nonetheless, when you think of MUN, Model United Nations, these are the first phrases or words that come to our mind. Okay. Replica of UN, like mentioned everywhere, all over the internet, or even if you look at orientation sessions that you might have attended by I.R.M.U.N, we say that MUN is an academic simulation of the UN. Basically means a replica, a copy. The only difference being that instead of the adults, the diplomats, okay, who are going and speaking on an international platform, it is students, the youth such as you and me, who will be speaking and interacting. Of course, it's not like a only listening conference where you just sit and listen to others speak. Okay, it's a discussion, it's a debate. So essentially, it's a debate competition. Like, you have to represent someone or some country and you have to speak on their behalf, right? So thus discussion comes into play. You have to actively take part in it. You have to play your role in an MUN. Okay. Negotiation, diplomacy. Obviously, in the United Nations itself, when people go and speak, they are speaking, okay, for a purpose, to get what they want, okay, to complete to solve a problem or to complete a goal. And this is where these skills come into play, okay? Negotiation skills, diplomatic skills, the art of persuasion, persuading others to get what you want, okay? Basically succeeding in your goals. How will you tell others? How will you convince others to do what you want, to do what will suit your country or your character? Thus, negotiation and diplomacy comes into play. And obviously, finding solutions to problems. The entire purpose of even the diplomats on the international platform who are meeting on a regular basis through summits, the reason they are meeting is not just, for discussion. They can do that online as well, okay? But the main reason is to come to a consensus, basically to come to a solution, okay? To find an answer to the current problem that they are facing so that we can solve the issue and move ahead, all right? So this is a gist of what is Model United Nations. Now, basic concepts of an MUN. So bear with me because this is going to be a very transparent explanation at first. I'm going to explain it to you, not in much detail, but very clearly. Okay, so that you'll get these concepts into your head. And I hope you will not have any doubt about these basic concepts because this is the most important thing when you're taking part in an MUN. First of all, what is a committee? Okay, a committee, as a name suggests, it's like a category. Okay, so in every different committee or in every different category, you discuss different kinds of things or you discuss different kinds of topics. So the different types of committees that we have in an MUN are, as listed, conventional or UN, Indian, fictional, sports, and mythological. Conventional or UN examples are, of course, UNHRC, UNSC, UNESCO, WHO. Okay, Indian committees, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, Niti Aayog, etc. Fictional committees, Harry Potter, Marvel, Lucifer, etc. Sports committees, International Olympic Committee, FIFA, ICC, etc. Mythological example, Mahabharata. All right. So these are the different types of committees. Now, what is an agenda? Even in a committee, there is so much that you can discuss, right? So we decide one particular topic that you will emphasize upon, okay? That you will talk in depth upon. You will cover anything and everything related to that topic. That is known as an agenda for the committee. The main topic for the committee is known as agenda. Okay. Next, delegate and portfolio. You, the participants, are known as delegates. Okay. So each of you is a delegate of some nation or some character, okay, in some committee which has some agenda. Get that clear? Okay. So each of you are delegates, okay, means, which basically means you are representing something other than yourself, right? So you'll not be the person that you are at home, okay? You'll not represent yourself, you're representing someone other than yourself. So thus a delegate. And that's where portfolio comes into play. Portfolio is who or what are you representing? So let's say if you are representing Australia, then you will be the delegate of Australia and your portfolio will be Australia. Okay. If you are, let's say, I.R.M.U.N, then you will be the delegate of I.R.M.U.N and your portfolio will be I.R.M.U.N. Similarly, for Indian committees, if you are representing Amit Shah, then you will be the delegate of Amit Shah and your portfolio will be Amit Shah. So the portfolio is the person, okay, or the politician or the country or the character that you are going to represent, okay, the portfolio that has been allotted to you. Now, what is an executive board or chair? Now, there are going to be so many people in your committee, right? It's not just you or just 2 or 3 people. There are going to be a lot of people. So how do we maintain order? How do we make sure that everyone gets an equal chance to speak? How do you know when to speak? What to speak? Whether what you're speaking is right. So to moderate this session, to moderate the conference, every committee has something known as the executive board. It is a fancy term, but in layman's words, you can call this as a judge. Okay. I'm sure you guys have seen in courts. Okay. There are lawyers who present their cases and there is a judge who says, okay, now this side speak. Now that side speak. Okay. So he is moderating the session. He or she will make sure that there are no fights, that everything goes smoothly. And of course, as a judge does, he or she will make sure that will decide who presented the best information or who was the best at this debate. Because at the end of the day, it is a competition, but that is just for incentive purposes. That should not be your goal. Okay. So executive board, they are known as the chair. So you will call them not the EB or the executive board. You will call them as the chair or vice chair. So you can call respective chair or respective vice chair. Okay. So this is how you will address them. They will help you through the session and they will moderate this session. Okay. And every committee has a different chair. Next, resolution. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, the entire purpose of all of us coming together to discuss all these issues and problems is to come to a solution, right? So just like in the United Nations, there is a written document passed. Even in an MUN, we pass a written document known as the resolution. Okay. So this includes everything that we have discussed in the committee and everything that the delegates together have decided and agreed upon to implement in the future. Basically, what has every single member in the committee decided to do together to solve the issue? What have they decided that they will not do? Okay, so all of this is included in formal words in a written document known as a resolution. Okay, it binds the member nations or the delegates together in a sense that they are supposed to follow everything that's written in the resolution. They agree with it, and this is how they think they will be able to solve the problem very fast. Okay, no matter which type of committee it is. It can be Indian, it can be fictional, sports, mythological. There will always be a resolution. All right. It's not necessary that only in UN ka committee there will be resolution. No. All types of committees, resolutions can be passed. Okay. Next. Language and delivery. Okay. So this is very simple. Which language you're supposed to speak in the committee? You are permitted to speak in the official language English in all committees. Okay. In fact, you're supposed to. You cannot speak in any other language during formal session except for Indian committees and Mahabharata. All right. So Indian committees, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and Mahabharata. These 3 committees you can speak in Hindi, but You cannot use slang words. You have to use respectful Hindi. Okay. You cannot say tum, tu. You have to say aap. Okay. So as mentioned below, you have to be formal and respectful at all times. Okay. English, Hindi, whatever. No foul language prohibited. Please, if you feel irritated or if you're in a bad mood, whatever it is, there we have a zero tolerance policy for foul language. So please make sure that you do not commit such a mistake. Be very respectful and kind towards your fellow delegates, no matter how experienced or inexperienced you are. This is an experience that you all are going to have together. Okay. Refrain from using personal pronouns. So this is something that the experienced delegates will already know. But for the first timers, when you are representing a nation, okay, or a character, you won't say I. Okay. You will say the delegate of Australia would like to say, or the delegate of I.R.M.U.N would like to say. You don't say I would like to say. So this is a rule. Okay. In MUNs, you don't use personal pronouns. That's why refrain from using I. Now, this is not a very strict thing. Of course, if it's your first time, you might blurt it out once or twice, but just keep it in mind and keep practicing it. You'll get it. Okay. And lastly, speak only when recognized by the chair. Like I mentioned, the chair is here to moderate the session. He or she will tell and decide who will speak when. Okay, you can volunteer to speak. You can raise your hand or you can show interest that I want to speak for this topic. Okay, but the chair will allow you to speak, and that is only when you will say your speech or whatever. Okay, so what does this mean? Only when recognized by the chair. So when you raise your hand for whatever matter it is, and the chair says, yes, delegate of Australia, you have been recognized. This means you now have the floor. Basically, you can now speak freely. Okay. So whenever, no matter what is going on in the committee, if you want to speak, okay, you will raise your hand and the chair will recognize you. We will take the name of your portfolio, okay, or who or what you're representing. You will say, yes, delegate of Canada, or yes, delegate of I.R.M.U.N, or you have been recognized delegate of Argentina. Okay. You have the floor, delegate of Argentina. This means that you have been recognized. Basically, amongst all the people who are going to speak, the chair has seen you and recognized you, and now it's your turn to speak. So you will only speak when you are recognized by the chair. That's what this means. Now, rules of procedure. Rules of procedure, as the name suggests, are rules that you need to follow throughout the debate, all right, or throughout the MUN conference. I will give you a gist of the most basic elements of an ROP, okay? And if you all have any doubts, you all can put it up on the chat and I can address them later, okay? So let's begin. Now, this is something that you all can take a screenshot of because we will keep coming back to this, okay? Things your chair can say. Read carefully or listen carefully. Are there any motions on the floor? Are there any points on the floor? Delegate of XYZ, you have been recognized. Those in favor of this motion? Those against this motion? This motion passes or fails. This motion is not an order, delegate. Do not deviate, delegate. Delegate, please conclude your speech. Delegate of XYZ, you have the floor for the next dash seconds. Delegate who would like to speak, please raise your hands. Okay, so these are the most common phrases that your chairperson or your executive board members will use in a committee. And through the course of this ROP session, like when I move forward, you will understand what answer or how are you supposed to react to each of these questions. Okay. Yeah. Now voting. Okay. Now this is formal, right? Just like we have elections, okay? And even in the United Nations, there is a formal voting procedure. Even in MUN, for anything important to happen, we vote, okay? So what is the simple agenda for voting? Majority wins, right? You all have heard this. That is the basic idea. There are two types of voting in MUN. Informal voting and formal voting. Informal voting is used 90% of the times, okay? There is only one round and it has a simple majority, which means 50% plus 1. Nothing to think about too much. Simply put, If the chair asks, remember in the previous slide, those in favor of this motion. So if you are in favor, you raise your hand. The chair counts the number of people in favor. Then the chair asks those against. The chair counts the number of people who are against this motion, compares the both, okay, and then comes to a verdict whether the motion has passed or failed. To pass, it needs a simple majority. In informal voting, it needs a simple majority, which means 50% plus 1. Basically, if there are 20 delegates in a committee, okay, who are voting for a motion, for the motion to pass, it needs to be 50% plus 1, which means 10 plus 1. 11 delegates minimum have to vote in favor of the motion for it to pass. Okay. This math you don't need to remember. It is just something that you should know. Okay. And informal voting is used throughout the committee session. Okay. Because like mentioned, voting is a very essential part of an MUN conference. Okay. For any important step that we take towards rerouting or redirecting the committee, we use voting procedure. Now, the second type of voting is known as formal voting. Informal voting is just one round. Formal voting is 3 rounds. This requires a special majority, which means at least 2/3 of the committee. Now, I won't get into the nitty-gritties of formal voting, okay? That your chairperson or executive board member can explain to you in detail when you all come to it, okay? During the course of the conference, because if I explain it to you all now, you all will get confused. But in a nutshell, formal voting is only used for resolution purposes, okay? Everywhere else, informal voting is used. Formal voting is used only when it comes to passing or failing of a resolution. And the difference being, there are 3 rounds instead of 1 round. Secondly, there is a special majority, not 50% plus 1, but 2/3. All right, which means at least 2/3 of the committee should vote in favor of the motion, which means you want. Favor means you want this motion to pass. Against obviously means you don't want this motion to pass. Okay, next. Now, the first course of action during an ROP session, okay, is setting the agenda. You all already have the agenda given to you all ready made, okay? It's there in your study guides, okay? And it's also mentioned in your mails. You all can check it out, okay? So this is the first course of action, setting of the agenda. Now, how do we do this? Okay. Now, this is where let's circle back to what the chair says. Remember, the first sentence was, are there any motions on the floor? Okay. So when the chair says that, then any one of you as a delegate can raise your hand, either virtually or with your cameras on, whatever is comfortable. Okay. And when the chair recognizes you, okay, remember we spoke about recognition. If the chair says, yes, delegate of Australia, then you will use this verbatim. Verbatim means this format, okay? So this is given as an example. You can follow this same thing and replace the portfolio and the agenda with what has been given to you, your portfolio and your committee ka agenda, okay? So let me read out the example. So let's say the chair recognizes me. Okay, so I'll say the delegate of Australia would like to raise a motion to set the agenda for the committee as whatever the given agenda is. Example, evaluating nuclear waste disposal methods. Okay, then this will be followed by informal voting. Okay, so the chair will ask those in favor of this motion, okay, and those against. Now, of course, if setting the agenda is the first thing that we do and the agenda fails, then how will we continue with the committee? There will be no discussion. Everything will be null and void. Okay, which means we won't be able to progress forward. We won't be able to do anything. That's why when it comes to voting for the agenda, okay, or voting for setting of agenda, we always say yes, or we always vote in favor. So when the chair asks, you always raise your hand in favor. Okay, but this is only for setting of the agenda. Now, this was one time wherein we use informal voting. Can you all see? We'll be using informal voting many more times. I'll be mentioning it in the slides. Okay, so just keep note of it. So this is about setting the agenda. It's very simple. It's already given to you all. Okay, and this is the format that you all have to use. And anyone can raise the agenda. Okay, anyone. It doesn't matter. You just have to raise your hand and be recognized by the chair. And then you use this verbatim, replace portfolio and agenda with what you have. Okay. And then you say it. Okay. Next. Roll call. After setting up the agenda, the chair takes a roll call. Simply put, it's attendance. Okay. So the chair will say delegate of Australia, delegate of Argentina, delegate of the United States of America, delegate of Japan. And you just like in school, we say present ma'am, present ma'am. You have to do the same thing. Okay. But the only difference here is there are two options. Okay. You either say present or present and voting. Okay. So these two options, okay, are valid when it comes to the resolution. Okay. So when you do what kind, remember we spoke that resolution is the only thing wherein we use formal voting, right? So in formal voting, whether you say present or present and voting makes a difference. Okay. There is a procedure for that. But again, that I won't be explaining. Just remember that there are two options, present and present and voting. Okay. To simply put, present and voting means when you're voting for the resolution, okay, if you say present and voting, you cannot abstain from voting. Okay. Abstain means you cannot say I don't want to vote. Abstain means neutral. Yahan bhi nahi, wahan bhi nahi. Neither yes nor no, I am not voting. That means you're abstaining. You're avoiding the voting. Okay. You're avoiding the formal vote. You can only do that when you say present. Okay. So if you say only present, you have the option of abstaining during resolution ka voting. But if you say present and voting, then you have to choose either yes or no. That is, do you want this resolution to pass or not? You cannot say I don't want to vote or I don't wish to vote. Okay. Again, this will be a little bit complex, but I'm just giving you a basic idea. I'll just repeat it again. Roll call means basic attendance. You have two options, present and voting. If you say present, which means during the formal voting for the resolution, you can abstain. You can prevent from voting. Okay. And present and voting means during the formal voting for the resolution, you cannot abstain, which means you have to choose a side. You have to choose whether or not you want this resolution to pass. Okay. Okay, now general speakers list. After the roll call or the attendance, the committee automatically moves into the GSL. Okay, so the chair will say we have now moved into the general speakers list, those wishing to add their names to the list. Okay, now what is this GSL? Okay, GSL is a 90-second speech that you give that explains your stance, position, or status of the country or character that you're representing with respect to the agenda. So basically, what is it that your country or character has done to tackle the problem so far? What is your country or character's views on the same? Okay. What is your country or character's future plans for the same? What is your country or character's laws that have been implemented in order to solve the problem? Any suggestions, any help they require? Okay. So all of this summarized, okay, a summary. You don't have to say all the information that you have in 90 seconds. No, a summary of the position or where does your country or character stand with respect to the agenda is said in the GSL speech or the general speakers list speech. Okay. This is a 90-second speech, which means there'll be 90 seconds for each speaker. And it's a basic introduction to the topic. So what is the overview or the bird's eye view of your portfolio? That is your country or your character about the agenda. Okay. What is their opinion about the agenda in 90 seconds? Okay. So it should be sufficient data, not too short, but not too long as well. It's recurring, which means a GSL does not end until the end of the committee session, which means it will be going on for 2 days. Okay. Means you can speak in the general speakers list as many times as you want. You can give a GSL speech as many times as you want. Okay. And now you might be wondering if ek baar mein already position, stance ya status explain kar diya first GSL speech mein, then what do I say in the second GSL speech? Second GSL speech onwards, you can speak about anything and everything relevant to the agenda. If it's remotely related to the agenda or the topic that you have, you can speak. Okay, that is the beauty of GSL. It gives you the freedom to talk about anything and everything relevant to the agenda. The recurring means that you can always keep adding your name to the GSL list. The chair will ask those delegates wishing to add their names to the GSL, please raise your hand. You can raise your hand and then you can give a GSL speech again. But catch here is everyone must give at least one GSL speech. It is compulsory that every delegate or attending member of the conference has to give at least one GSL speech. So this means that you need to keep one GSL speech ready with you. All right. Now, there is no particular format as such. If you're a first timer, then maybe you can hear someone go first. Okay. But it's basically about how you compile your information and create a speech. It is not very tough. It's just summarizing everything that you have. Okay. So remember that everyone has to give at least one GSL general speakers list, as the name suggests, general. Anything generally related to the agenda can be presented via the GSL. Okay, yield, only relevant to GSL. Now, what does yield mean? Yield means to give, dena, okay? So we yield our time either to questions, comments, or another delegate. So at the end of every GSL speech, the chair will ask you, okay, delegate, how would you like to yield your time? And at that point, you can say either one of these three: questions, comments, or another delegate. Now, what does this mean? If you yield to questions, okay, this means that on the basis of your speech, if another delegate wants to question something that you have written, they can ask, okay. What does comment? If you yield to comment, means other delegates can comment on your speech, tell you how they felt your speech was structured, whether it was useful, what you could have added, what you should have mentioned. Okay, these are comments. And another delegate means that whatever time you have left, you are giving it to another delegate. Okay, so let's say I'm the delegate of Armenia. Okay, and I have 30 seconds left, and I'm yielding it to the delegate of USA. Delegate of USA already has 90 seconds, right? Normal GSL time. So he or she will get 90 seconds plus 30 seconds. Got it? It will add on to their time. So that is what it means to yield to another delegate. Okay. Now, one thing, remember, yielding is only applicable for GSL, only applicable for general speakers list. Okay. And if you yield to questions, it means that you have to give an answer to them. Only one question can be asked per GSL speech. If you yield to comments, two people can comment, one comment each. You need not respond to them. Okay. And another delegate means you're basically passing on your time to another delegate and adding on to their time, and they can take up that time to speak extra or whatever. Okay. And remember, it is compulsory to yield. Even if you speak for 90 seconds, okay, you still have to yield. Okay, you still have to yield either to questions or comments. Now you have to choose whom you want to yield, what you want to yield to: questions, comments, or another delegate. Okay, once again, yielding is only for GSL. Let's move on. Now, points. As the name suggests, points means to point out something. Okay, during the committee session, you want to point out something. You use this element of ROP known as points. Okay. Now, there are 4 types of points: point of personal privilege, point of information, point of parliamentary inquiry, and point of order. Okay. Point of personal privilege. 1. When do you use this? Only for personal comfort. If the delegate is not audible, okay, if there is some network issues, if you can't hear them, if they are speaking too fast, okay. So for personal comfort issues, you will use point of personal privilege. Second, point of information, wrong data or facts. What does this mean? If some delegate is saying something, okay, or said something, and you think or you know what they've said is wrong, okay, it's factually incorrect or what they've said is wrong, then you can point it out through a point of information. Okay, you can say the delegate of XYZ would like to raise a point of information against the statement made by the delegate of China, whatever. So what the delegate said, you think that that is wrong, and you want that delegate to state his source. Okay, which means where did they get this information from? Is it reliable? Are they lying? Are they wrong? Okay, so if you want to point out a factual inaccuracy in someone else's speech, then you use a point of information. Now, point of parliamentary inquiry. At any time, if you are lost, okay, if you don't know what is going on, you don't know how to progress, or if you want to speak but you don't know how, then you will use a point of parliamentary inquiry. Okay, this basically means that the chair will help you understand what's going on. So you can say point of parliamentary inquiry, I'm not understanding what's going on, or point of parliamentary inquiry, that you know something about the procedure that you are confused about. So this basically means when it comes to parliamentary procedures, which means basically the ROP that we are following, you are in the midst of the session and you are confused, okay, what's going on, or you have a doubt, then you use a point of parliamentary inquiry, which is addressed to the executive board and they will help you. Lastly, point of order, deviance from ROP. What does deviance mean? Hatna, okay, or moving aside, basically means not following. So at any point, if you feel that any member, be it a delegate or a chair, okay, anyone from the EB as well, is not following the ROP, okay, is not using English or Hindi, or is using foul language, or is speaking out of order, which means kahin se bhi kaise bhi the person is speaking without being recognized. Okay, so this means you can raise a point of order. Basically, you're pointing out that you are not following order. You are denying the order that has been told that we all have to follow. Okay, so these are the 4 points. Now, at any point in the conference, you cannot interrupt another speaker except for when you're using point of personal privilege. Okay, only if the opposite delegate is inaudible or not clear, you can interrupt them and raise a point of personal privilege. Otherwise, at no point whatsoever can you interrupt any speaker who is currently speaking. Okay, now another thing, yields are only for GSL, but points, they can be used throughout the conference. Okay, it's not just for GSL. You can use points whenever you want. Again, circling back to when the chair said, are there any points on the floor? You can raise your hand and you can say, as the format mentions here, the delegate of portfolio, Captain America, would like to raise a point of information. Okay, so basically this means that the delegate of Captain America thinks that another delegate has made a factual inaccuracy or has mentioned something wrong in his or her speech and would like to verify their source, okay, and would like to point out that they are wrong. So these are the different 4 points and you can use them at any point. Okay, let's move on. Moderated caucus. Okay, now if you all have gone through the study guides, at the end of the study guide there is something known as suggested moderated caucuses. Okay, to be put very simply, a moderated caucus, also informally known or shortened as a mod, okay, is a subtopic. The agenda is a topic, but uske andar bhi there are so many points that can be discussed. We have so many hours. We're not just meeting for half an hour and leaving, right? It's a 2-day conference. We have so much time. So we have to discuss everything in detail, intensively, intricately, make sure we cover every aspect of the agenda. And the way to do that is to break it down into subtopics, okay? Just like you all have different chapters, okay, in different subjects, right? Let's say history. You all don't study all of history together, right? You'll study it in different chapters. This way, it increases your retention, which means you remember it better and it helps you to learn more effectively. Similarly, moderated caucuses are like different chapters in a subject. Okay, so you discuss different subtopics under the main topic, which is the agenda. And Of course, you can come up with your own moderated caucus topics, and they generally begin with phrases such as discussing, evaluating, okay, or deciding, okay, negotiating. So these are some phrases that moderated caucus topics begin with. So if you open your study guide and see, this is generally how mod will be phrased, okay? Phrased means how they will be said. Obviously, it has to be relevant to the agenda, okay? Like I mentioned, it's a subtopic, matlab it cannot, just deviate from anywhere. It cannot come from the sky. It has to be relevant to the agenda. Set total and per speaker time limit, okay? So if you are raising a moderated caucus, there is a format to raise it, okay? Whether it be your own, which means something that you have come up with on your own, okay? Formulated on your own, or whether it's something that's mentioned in the study guide. You can raise any of it. Again, when will it be raised? Again, circling back, the chair will ask, are there any motions on the floor? You raise your hand. If you're recognized, you raise a motion for a moderated caucus. And this is the format in which you do it, okay? So like you've noticed, we raise motions for everything, right? So this is the concept of raising motions. So for anything to happen, we raise motions. Basically, we put forth our idea to the committee, and if they think that idea is worth pursuing, then we vote for it, okay? So basically, the format is the delegate of your portfolio, example, Australia, would like to raise a motion to enter into a moderated caucus for the topic, whatever mod you have formulated, hazards of nuclear waste on wildlife, for total speaker time 10 minutes and per speaker time 1 minute, okay? So if you are raising this motion, you need to give a total speaker time and per speaker time as well, okay? So this clearly means, so let's take this example. Total speaker time 10 minutes and per speaker time 1 minute. This means that there can be 10 speakers, okay? Now, once your chair listens to your motion, okay, he or she will say, delegate, this is in order, or delegate, the motion is not in order. Once again, this was mentioned in things that chairs say, okay? So when he says this is not in order, it either means that you have not phrased it properly, or it means that the topic is not relevant to the agenda. If the delegate says it is in order, you move into informal voting again, which means again, the chair will ask, delegates in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. So if you think this is a subtopic worth discussing and you will also speak on it, okay, you will also give your opinion or your views when it comes to this subtopic, and you have data or research relevant to this subtopic, then you will vote for this motion, okay? You will raise your hand or whatever, you will vote for this motion. And if you believe that this subtopic is not worth discussing, or that you feel it's not relevant, then you will vote against this motion, okay? So if majority say yes, then the motion passes and you formally enter into a moderated caucus, okay? Now in this, obviously, jo subtopic chuna hai, that only you all will talk about, okay? Whatever information you all have about that subtopic, you all can talk about. So there'll be 10 speakers, which means 10 different delegates can volunteer to speak. So if the motion passes, okay, so the chair, if the majority have voted for the moderated caucus, the chair will say, this moderated caucus has passed by a simple majority. We have entered a moderated caucus, okay. He or she will repeat the topic and total and per speaker's time and say, delegates wishing to speak in this moderated caucus, please raise your hands, okay. So the chair or the executive board will entertain 10 speakers. Entertain means they'll allow 10 speakers. So if you want to speak, then you raise your hand, you're recognized, okay, and then you speak upon this topic. Similarly, you all can discuss many moderated caucuses throughout the session. Basically means ek karke you are going to cover every aspect of the agenda, okay. So 10 minutes you will be discussing about one subtopic in detail. Then another 5 or 10 minutes you all can discuss about another topic, okay. Now this time, total speaker time and per speaker time that I mentioned is just an example. It can also be 15 minutes and 1 minute. It can also be 20 minutes and 2 minutes. That means 20 minutes total speaker time and 2 minutes per speaker time, okay. So that is upon you. That is upon the person who raises the motion, okay. So this is about moderated caucus. Don't get confused because it's such a complicated term. You can just call it a mod and consider it as a subtopic. Okay. So if you think that there is a particular avenue, okay, or something relevant to the agenda that we can have a productive discussion upon, okay, in detail, then you can raise a moderated caucus in this format. Okay. And as mentioned, of course, informal voting. Let's go ahead. Unmoderated caucus. Moderated caucus is a formal session, right? The chair says he will speak, she will speak. You're talking about a specific thing. You all are expressing your views in a formal manner, right? Unmoderated caucus, obviously known as unmod in short, is the exact opposite of it. Okay, it's the exact opposite, which means it is unmoderated. Remember, I told you the chair is someone who moderates the session. This means it's unmoderated, means the chair is not present, which means the delegates are free to interact with each other. Okay, now this does not mean it's a break. No, it's not a break. It is a time for you to interact with other delegates and come up with a course of action for the future of the committee. Basically, in this unmoderated caucus, you will speak with member delegates, okay, whether they are delegates of nations or characters. You will talk to them and decide ki abhi aage kya kare? What should we talk about next? What have we missed out on? Okay, so this is discussed informally. Okay, this is an informal session between the delegates. Okay, the EB is not present, the executive board is not present. You all are free to cross talk with each other. Okay, how you all have wished, or through WhatsApp or whatever. And you all have to interact with each other and decide what are you going to do after the unmod ends. Okay, after formal session resumes or formal session begins again. Now, generally, why are unmods used? To come up for mod topics. Okay, basically, like I said, if you think there is some area that we have missed or some subtopic that we can come up with that we should discuss, you can brainstorm. Basically, think about it in an unmoderated caucus, note it down, then you all can discuss it in a formal session. And two, unmods are also used for creating working papers and resolutions. Okay, what are working papers? I'll come to that. You all know what resolutions are, right? Resolutions are the written document that we need to pass at the end of the session. And it's not compulsory that we need to pass. It's just something that we do. Okay, a resolution can fail as well. Okay, we have to present a resolution. We have to make it and present it. But if it fails, it's permitted. All right, it depends on the voting once again. But coming back to unmods, what are unmods used for? One, to brainstorm about mod topics. What other things can we discuss? What can we talk about? Have we missed something? What other research can we do? Okay. And second, create working papers and resolution. Working paper also is very similar to a resolution. All right. And again, to make these documents, you will need time, right? You cannot make it while others are speaking or, during the committee session. You will need time to put words together, to decide how are you going to phrase it formally in a written document. So you use the time in an unmoderated caucus to create these working papers and resolutions, be it on Google Docs or whatever, to type it out, to make corrections, editing, etc. So unmods are used mainly for these purposes. And the maximum time permitted for unmod during an I.R.M.U.N conference is 20 minutes. Now, once again, there is a format. Okay. So again, this follows the same rule. If the chair asks, are there any motions on the floor? And you think, okay, that we need to stop formal session and go into an informal session to discuss some things, okay, that will beneficially impact the future of this committee or this conference, then you can raise an unmoderated caucus, okay, an unmod caucus ka motion. Once again, you wait for the chair to recognize you, and if the chair recognizes you, you say, the delegate of Australia would like to raise a motion to suspend formal debate and move into an unmoderated caucus for a total time of XYZ minutes, whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, okay? 20 minutes is the maximum. Again, this is the verbatim, which means this is how you will say it, this is how you will phrase it. And once again, this is also followed by informal voting. Okay, it's not mentioned, but it's obvious, because if there are other people who think that no, we should continue with moderated caucus, okay, If most people think that we don't need an unmod right now, we don't need an informal session right now, we are doing well, we are discussing stuff, and we have a lot of stuff to discuss, we don't need an unmod, then they can vote against the unmod and it will fail. Okay, so even when you raise a motion for an unmoderated caucus, it is followed by, once again, informal voting. So once you raise this motion, once you say the delegate of Australia would like to raise a motion to suspend formal debate and move into an unmoderated caucus for the total time of, let's say, 15 minutes, the chair will say, okay, delegates in favor of this motion or to enter into an unmod, raise your hands. Delegates against this motion, raise your hand. They count. And if it's for, then the EB or the executive board officially leaves the session, okay, which means you all will be on your own, but it's not a break. Let me be clear again. This is not a break, okay? There are different timings for break. This is an informal session that is still part of the conference. It just helps you to plan ahead, okay? So, and if obviously, if most people vote against, then this motion fails, okay? Which means you won't enter into an unmoderated caucus. As simple as that, okay? Now, working paper. Working paper is used to mark the progress of the committee. Written document that includes what is discussed, no particular format, written and created during unmod, anyone can create, discussed during formal session. Okay. Now, very simple, working paper basically means what have you been working on so far? Whatever you have worked on so far through the course of this committee session, you pen it down, okay, or you write it down or you type it, okay, in a document. That is what a working paper is. So anything that has been discussed in the committee so far, okay. Now note that resolution is always towards the end, okay, but working paper can be at any point. Working paper can be at any point and anyone can create a working paper, but it has to be created during an unmod, okay. So basically, you can just create a working paper, say working paper A, okay, created by delegate of Australia, okay, and then you can just write everything that has been discussed in your committee. What have you discussed so far? What have you understood so far? What have the different members agreed upon so far? Okay, there is no particular format. Resolution has a particular format. Working paper does not have a particular format, just that you have to write it in pointers, okay, and you have to use formal language. That is the only basis, okay. Now, once you make a working paper, you have to show it to the rest of the committee as well, right? You have to discuss it in the committee. Now, that is done once again in a formal session. So once the unmod ends, okay, once the chair comes back into the session and says, delegates, we are back into formal session. And once again, he or she will ask, are there any motions on the floor? Now here you can, if you have a working paper ready and you want to present it and discuss it, then you will raise a motion. Again, you'll wait to be recognized and then you will raise a motion in this verbatim. The delegate of Ireland would like to raise a motion to present working paper. Okay. Again, followed by informal voting. Okay. So your working paper is presented to the committee. All right. Which means all the members can see what you have written. Okay. They can see what all you have mentioned and everything. And if they feel that this working paper should be passed, okay, basically it gives a good idea, if not the best, but at least a good general idea of the basic things that have been discussed in this conference or in this session so far, then they will pass it. Similarly, if someone else is raising a motion for discussing or presenting working paper, then you read through it, you see what all they have mentioned, okay? And if you think that they've done a decent job at mentioning what has been, you know, obviously they have to be formal enough in their language. It has to be formally presented, of course, in pointers. It should be easy to read and it should be very crisp and clear, okay? So if you think it ticks all this criteria, then you vote for the working paper to pass. Once again, informal voting, which means majority wins. That means that if majority of the delegates present in the session vote for the working paper will pass, okay? And if they don't, the working paper fails, unfortunately. So this is the procedure for a working paper. It's not very complex. It's just like I mentioned, it's very similar to resolution, just that it doesn't have a particular format, okay? All right. Now, I.R.M.U.N. Knockout. Now, like I mentioned, MUNs or Model United Nations are a very structured or formal or organized kind of debate, right? But it's still a debate. So if the executive board member or if even you as a delegate feel the need to spice things up, or if you want to heat up the debate or make things a little bit more competitive, a little bit more intense, then you use an element known as an IRMUN knockout. Basically, this means it's 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2. You can ask a chair to do a 1 versus 1 debate or a 2 versus 2 debate, okay, on a topic relevant to the agenda. Basically, 1 delegate versus 1 delegate or 2 delegates versus 2 delegates. Knockouts are permitted in all committees, which means it can be India, Bhutan versus China, Pakistan, or it can be Russia versus USA, all right, or it can be Voldemort versus Harry Potter. So you can request for this to happen, okay? You can request for an IRMUN knockout. As the name knockout suggests, it means that both sides will be fighting per se, which means there will be like, it will be more like offense, defense, okay? So it will be like 2 sides. But once again, all rules need to be followed. No offensive language, you speak slowly, respectfully, okay? And you do not interrupt the opposite speaker, and you only speak when it is your turn to speak. Of course, the topic of the knockout has to be relevant to the agenda. Whatever knockout you're doing on, you're going to do a knockout, you're going to have this heated debate on one particular topic, right? But what is this topic? That also y'all can decide, y'all have the freedom, okay? But it has to be, once again, relevant to the agenda that is provided to you. Both sides will get an equal chance to speak, maximum time 10 minutes, okay? So the maximum time for an IRMU knockout is 10 minutes, and both sides, okay, which means whether it's one-on-one or 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, both the sides will get an equal opportunity to put their points forward. Now this is not like this side won the knockout or that side won the knockout. There's no winning here. It's just to, get things more active, get things more happening, but we don't declare winners as such, okay? Another thing that you all should know is that during an actual MUN, if you all want to show appreciation for what someone has said, if you think it's very relevant, if you think they have made an amazing point, then you bang the table, all right? You bang the desk that you have like this, very short. But unfortunately, in an online MUN, it becomes a bit of a problem. So if you appreciate what another delegate has said of you, or if you think it's a very valid point, you can just put it in the chat, okay? You can simply put it in the chat saying very, very good point, delegate of Australia, or a delegate of United States of America totally agrees with the delegate of Argentina, okay? Because we won't be able to express our appreciation physically because it will cause a lot of technical glitches, but just saying, so even in a knockout, there is no decision, no winner loser, okay? It's a heated debate, but at the end of it, we don't declare a winner or anything because it's just a 10-minute thing, okay? It's just a sub part of this entire conference, okay? So this is something that you all should know about, a very interesting aspect of the ROP known as knockout. It is not compulsory, guys. It's totally optional. So if you all don't want to be part of a knockout, you all don't be. It's totally up to you all, okay? This is completely optional, okay? Other aspects of an IRMUN conference, okay? Now, if I bombard you with, I have already given you so much technical information and it might be new to a lot of you all. So we have decided that we will let your executive board members or your chairpersons explain a few of the other aspects of an MUN. The main concepts have already been explained, okay? But these are some other concepts that exist, okay? And if you need to use them, you should know what they are. So I'm just going to state them. There is crisis, resolution and amendments, formal voting, and brain blast. Formal voting I already covered in the beginning when I said there were 2 types of voting, and formal voting is used for resolution. There's 3 rounds, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, if you want to know about it in more depth, your chairperson will explain it to you. So these 4 concepts, okay, they are the secondary aspects of an MUN conference, but they are just as important. And it will become too confusing for you if I explain them to you right now. So I'm just telling you that these things also exist. Okay. All of this has been mentioned or explained in the ROP Rules of Procedure PDF that has been sent to you on mail as well as on your WhatsApp groups. You all can always open it and read it if you all are curious or want to know what it is. And if you all have any doubts, you all can ask it later, even to your chairperson. They are definitely going to explain it to you all. But just saying that you all should know these things exist and do not hesitate to open the ROP and go through them, because it's simple language, to be honest. It's not very complex. But yeah, you're not gonna get everything in the first try. So don't worry about it. Okay. Okay. Now, how can you prepare? Okay, now we spoke so much about all the complex words and terms like moderated caucus, general speakers list, unmoderated caucus, and it can be a lot of information for first timers. For experienced delegates, I'm really sorry that you had to bear with such a transparent explanation, but since you are experienced, I will also request those to help out those who are having their first MUN experience. Okay, so lend a hand, help out, be kind, be approachable. Okay, so please do the same, and you all can also help answer the doubts and queries of other delegates if you all wish to. And yeah, so basically we covered a lot of the technical aspects in the past half an hour or so. Let's come to something that's much more important. Okay, what are you supposed to do now? What can you do now to make sure that you don't just sit in the committee blank, or that you don't get bored, or that you don't get scared, or that it's not just a waste of time and money? All right. So this is what you can do. One, read the study guide carefully. I know it's a long document for a lot of y'all, but if y'all really like the topic, and I'm sure a lot of these topics are new, okay? They're all extremely new, and in every study guide, I swear you will find at least 10 new things that you might have never heard before. You are going to learn a lot if you read the study guide carefully. Read it like a chapter of your textbook. Don't by heart it, okay? Read it. Okay, read and try and understand what they are saying. If the words are complex, Google them. It's okay. Google what that word means. You'll understand. You'll learn new concepts related to world trade, global politics, or even if it's related to fictional committees. You all can Google it, and people who write fan fiction will probably give you a better idea about what that concept is. But what's very important is to read your study guide. Okay, it's a guide that is going to help you navigate your way through the committee. Okay, it gives you all the basic information that you need to sit in the committee without staring blankly. Okay, number two, search information particularly related to your portfolio, that is your country or character. Now, just reading the study guide is not enough, because the study guide has generic. Generic means general information or common information. But you are representing a particular person or a particular country or a particular character. You have to talk from their point of view. What have they done? What do they think, right? And how will you know all that? You cannot decide on your own what another person thinks, right? So you need to conduct research on that as well. Now, it's very easy. It's not complex at all. I have mentioned here how you can do it. You simply Google portfolio's role in agenda. You replace portfolio with your portfolio and agenda with your agenda. For example, Brazil's role in overcoming the pandemic. So here Brazil is the portfolio, overcoming the pandemic is the agenda. You just put this on Google and you will get thousands of responses. You go through the site, you read what you think you find interesting, you copy paste it into a document, or you just note any important point that you like. Okay, you can go up to like 10 or 12th page of Google searches. It's not necessary, guys, that you will find your answer or the information that you're looking for in the first Google search page. Okay, you can find it in the 20th or even the 30th page. You all don't have to go there. I'm just saying there is a little bit of effort that you all will need to take, okay, to make sure that you all can actively participate in the committee session. Even if you all don't know how to speak, a chair can help you. But if you don't have information to speak, okay, then what will you do? So that's why I'm telling you right now what to speak. Your what is right here. This is what you need to research upon. Okay. And obviously, very important, do not use Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is an unreliable site. It is editable, which means कोई भी जाके उस पे information change कर सकता है. Okay. And we do not trust this as a reliable source. Use sources such as newspapers. Okay. Such as Hindu. Okay. You have New York Times, Al Jazeera. Okay. Official websites. Use all these. Okay. And of course, for fictional committees, you can use fan fiction websites as well. And even in your study guides, we have mentioned some hyperlinks. Okay. We have mentioned something with a title known as links for research. Okay. So you all can use those links for conducting these research as well. Those are external links that we are providing with you so that you all can conduct your own research to make this process a little bit easy for you. Next, compile and organize your research. We are not asking you to write an essay or a research paper. If you find one sentence or one fact or one particular piece of information that you think is very important, write it down or copy paste it into a Word document, okay? Or copy paste it into a Google Docs, or just send it to your WhatsApp, okay? Send it to your parents or something. Organize your research, because if someone says something, or let's say a moderated caucus comes up and you realize, oh, I have information on this, but you don't know where that information is, kaun se site pe dekha tha, yaad nahi hai, then there's no point, because there's no time, right? Even if there's time, it's not going to be feasible for you to go through hundreds of sites again and look for that particular piece of information, right? So whenever you find something important, note it down, mark it, send it. Make sure you have your own research or your own data, okay? This means that you actually worked for the I.R.M.U.N. This means that you are being a true delegate. You are gathering information that will be useful for you in the committee session. So compile it, you can segregate it if you want for your own purpose, however you wish, just to make it easier for you to present information when asked, or when, during a moderated caucus, or even during a GSL. Remember I said during a general speakers list, after the first GSL speech, you can speak anything and everything related to the agenda. Right? So even if you have external or extra information related to the agenda, you can see it in your second GSL speech. So there is no harm in having extra information, all right? Just make sure that you have a particular place that you're keeping your research, star mark the page, whatever you're doing. Flag the page or take screenshot, whatever works for you, but do it, okay? Next, approach adults and seniors, ask them for their point of view. People will always help, okay? No matter how experienced or inexperienced you are, there are always people around you who will know more about this topic, okay? Around you does not necessarily mean your parents. It can be your seniors, basically your seniors from school or your teachers. If you have a particular agenda and you want to ask them, or you want to simply ask your parents, what are your views on this topic, mom or dad? What do you think? Do you think this is right? Do you think this is wrong? Or if you want them to explain it to you in brief so that you get a better idea, because you're still a little confused, ask, okay? There's no harm in asking. It only makes your knowledge more intensive. In fact, you can even ask us, but of course, curiosity, questions, everything starts at home. So even if your parents are not able to answer, they will themselves Google it and help you answer it. I'm sure they will do that. Or your elder siblings, or your friends who might be interested in such topics, or your seniors from school, your cousins. There are so many people you can approach, even your teachers, okay? Your people from your own class. There are anyone and everyone around you whom you think you can get a little bit of information from, just an insight, not something you have to note down, just to get a better idea of what is this topic about, what is the importance of this topic, and what kind of view should I develop on it, to give you a better understanding, okay, so that you become more passionate about the topic before you speak on it. All right, because the more passionate you are, the more confidently you will speak, okay, and that is what counts. So ask people, get their opinions, okay. Yeah. Get into character, okay. Don't just pretend, actually believe you are that person, i.e. your portfolio. Don't just think like I'm saying delegate of I.R.M.U.N or delegate of Australia. Believe that you are a citizen of Australia, okay, and that you are representing the interest of all the citizens of Australia, the thousands of people who live in Australia and all their concerns. You are representing that entire nation, all their problems, or whether you're representing Lord Krishna in Mahabharata. Believe that you are Lord Krishna. Think how will he react to such a situation? How will he respond? Believe that you are that person or are that character, and that will go a long way in helping you progress in the committee and speak in a better and effective manner. All right. So that means getting into character. If you get into character, if you actually believe that you are that person, or you are that person also, if you are that diplomat or that delegate representing that country, okay, then it will help you a lot. You will also enjoy it a lot more. It will add your personal touch to it, and it will be like putting yourself in the shoes of another person, okay. So that also makes things all the way more interesting. Okay, now lastly, do's on the day of the conference. If you have to get into character, it means you have to dress well in formal attire. Don't just sit in ghar ka kapda. Dress well, take the effort, okay? Wear good clothes, be presentable. Imagine this is an actual conference, okay, like your parents attend with their briefcases when they go to work, okay. Keep your cameras on the whole time. It's better to use laptop because it's more convenient. The webcams are better with the laptop and you don't have to hold it, okay. And the reason we're asking you to keep your cameras on is because that is how an interactive session will take place. All right, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is not a lecture. MUNs are not a lecture or TED Talks, okay? This is a debate, this is a discussion, and it's a conference, which means all of you have to follow the rules. All of you have to keep your cameras on, okay? Ensure a stable internet connection. Of course, if you have to speak and keep your cameras on, you'll need a good internet connection. So one night before only, check your internet, do like a check wherein you'll check that, whether the, whether Zoom is functioning properly, whether your webcam is functioning, are there any technical glitches, is your voice audible, is your video turning on. You can just do a check on all of this, okay, a night before. Be active and participative. The entire purpose of the MUN will be lost if you're not active and participative, all right? Don't feel dull. The moment you start to feel dull in the conference, it means you are going to lose entire interest in it. Keep yourself active. Keep participating. Keep speaking. There is a lot of information available in the internet. अगर conference के 1 घंटे में भी तुमने अपना सारा research exhaust कर दिया, मतलब सारा research use कर लिया, you can still always go on the internet and find more. Okay, there is a lot of data available. There's an ocean of knowledge available for all of us. Okay, so keep speaking. Ask queries when in doubt. Do not worry, there are people here to help you. Okay, whenever you are in doubt, you can approach the executive board members, okay? You can raise a point of parliamentary inquiry, or even during an unmod, you can message them personally. If there is some other issue that you are facing, they will be more than willing to help you out, and so will we. So do not hesitate to ask us. Even if it's the most stupid question, they will be willing to answer, okay? It doesn't matter. No one is going to judge you. Next, keep your search engine open. Keep researching information. The more, the better. Just like I mentioned, Google खोल के रखो. अगर कुछ information, if you need information more during the conference, you can just simply Google it. Okay, like if there's a particular moderated caucus that's going on and you want to speak upon it, but you realize you've not done research on it, you can immediately Google it and get information on it. All right, that is allowed. And in fact, you should do that because you're learning whilst you're speaking. Okay, listen to other delegates and speakers. Conference does not mean you're a presenter and speaking yourself. It's not a one-way thing. This is a two-way street. Only if you listen to other delegates, you'll know what they're talking about. If you don't listen, you won't be able to ask questions. You won't be able to pass comments, okay, in the GSL. You will not be able to write content for the working paper or the resolution because you didn't listen to what other delegates say, okay? Or you won't be able to know ki kiske liye, what motion should I vote for, what motion should I vote against, if you're not actively listening. Listening is very, very important aspect of an MUN conference. Do not take it for granted. Be very attentive. Even if you've not, a lot of it you might have not heard before and might seem a little bit boring at first, but you have to listen. The more you listen, the more you will realize what is wrong, what is right, what is worth appreciating, and what more can you do to contribute to the committee. Okay. And lastly, don't be afraid to speak up. Firstly, this is an online platform. कोई आपको घर पे आके मारने नहीं वाला है अगर आपने कुछ गलत बोला. And there is no punishment. Finals में 10% marks नहीं कटने वाला है if you say something wrong. If you have information that you think is relevant, speak up. If it's wrong, your chair will say it's wrong. That's the maximum. And he or she will tell you what is right so that you can go back and conduct research on what is right and then say that. Okay. So you cannot correct yourself without trying, right? So you need to fall down to get up. Okay. The same theory. So do not be afraid to speak up. Be very active. Okay, keep raising your hand, keep speaking, keep raising motions, keep doing it because that is what makes an MUN what it is. Okay, that is what makes a Model United Nations conference memorable. All right, so this was it for the session. I wish you all a very happy MUNing or happy money, which basically means I hope that you all have a very productive and fruitful MUN conference this weekend, that it goes smoothly, that you all enjoy your committee sessions, that you all learn, that you all grow and have a great experience. I'll just stop sharing. Okay, I would address some of the questions. I'll just address a few questions. Okay. One second, guys. I'm just going through your questions. Okay, what is evolution next? Okay, evolution next is basically wherein guest speakers, okay, role models and famous personalities whom we all look up to come and speak with us. They interact with us. Okay, they're all very accomplished in their respective fields. You all will get to know who the guest speakers are. You all can follow us on Instagram to check out who the guest speakers are. All right. So evolution next is basically about people who have evolved amazingly in their respective fields, be it actors, singers, politicians, etc., who will come and have a live interaction with all of us. You will get to meet them virtually, ask them questions, etc. Okay, that is evolution next. Or what is a resolution? Resolution, like I mentioned, it is a written document that is passed at the end of every committee session. Okay, very simply put, it is a summary of everything that has been discussed in the committee. मतलब अभी ये सारे member nations क्या करने वाले हैं to solve the issue? What are they going to do to solve this issue? What have they decided to do in the future? All this will be written in this document known as resolution. Don't worry, your chair will explain it to you in much more detail. Does everyone have to make a resolution? No, absolutely not. Okay. Working paper resolution you make only if you want to. Anyone can make it. Okay. only if you feel like you're confident enough. But let me be clear, even a first timer can make a resolution, all right? It's no big deal. Okay, it's not a big thing. You just need a little bit of time to go through the nitty-gritties, but basically the format of how a resolution is. It'll take you a little bit of time, but you can also make a resolution. But no, it is not compulsory. Everyone does not have to make a resolution on their own. Is paperwork compulsory? Yes. Paperwork is compulsory, but that does not mean you only have to make the paperwork. If someone else also makes the paperwork and it is passed and discussed in the committee, that's okay. But all of you are encouraged to write working papers at least, all right? Because even if it's your first MUN experience, we want this to be wholesome. Don't just restrict yourself to speaking and listening. Write as well, create, formulate, okay? Working papers, like I said, don't even have a format, so it's very easy to create, and y'all will listen to the same points again and again, and it'll practically be like put in your brain, and y'all just have to type it out in a formal manner. And once again, even to make a working paper, a chairperson can help you. Okay, you can always approach them and ask them, can you please help me, these are some of the points I have, but I don't know how exactly to make a working paper. They can help you out. Please explain brain blast. Okay. This will be done after this will be done at the end of the committee session, and this will be done by your chair, okay, by your executive board. Like I mentioned, crisis, brain blast, these are also concepts that are part of IRMU experience. But for today, for now, let's just hope कि जितना आज बोला गया वो that went into your brain, at least 50% of it. Okay, guys, I know this is a lot to take in for a lot of y'all. Okay, and don't worry, even if you understood 50% of it, then congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back that you sat through the entire session, you tried to pay attention, you're asking doubts, and that's a great thing that you're taking initiative. Okay, and that is the kind of initiative that you need to take in the MUN as well. That is all we ask of you. Everything else just falls into place. Basically means sab apne jagah pe aa jayega. You will basically get the idea once things start, when others start speaking, you will understand how to speak yourself, and you will understand what is moderated caucus and how to raise motions, and you'll start raising motions yourself. All right. Another thing I want to say is anyone can raise motions. Okay. First timer, second timer, 20th timer, you can raise motions. Only thing, raise your hand. If you're recognized, you raise the motion. Ma'am, what is the topic? Okay, all of you all have been given your respective agendas and portfolios, I believe. That is your topic, of course. Your agenda is the main topic, like I explained, and the committee is like the department, or basically the section that you will be in. Because obviously in Marvel, you cannot discuss about UNSC terrorism, right? So there are different committees. You have been allotted a committee and an agenda. You are part of that committee, and the agenda is what the topic that will be discussed, and the portfolio is the person that you will be representing. For IPL committee, will there be different rules? No. Rules will remain the same for all committees. They remain exactly the same. Okay. If you want to deviate from a normal, a conventional ROP, that's why we have brain blast and knockout. Okay. So if you want, you can always try for a brain blast and knockout. What these are, you can once again ask your EBs. What should we wear? Formal clothing. Do we have to make placards? Not necessary. You do not have to make placards. You can just create. You can just rename yourself in the meeting as your committee name and your portfolio. Okay, because then only we'll be able to allot you to the different committee meetings since it's online. But you all need not create placards. If you all want to, it's great. No, it's not compulsory to write a resolution. Position paper, guys, we do not have the concept of position paper, which means we do not force you all to make a position paper. And those of you all who don't know what position paper is, bhul jao, janne ki zarurat bhi nahi hai. Forget it. You all don't need to do a position paper. Okay. Okay. A lot of y'all didn't understand yield. Okay, yield basically means given time. Okay, so GSL se jo bacha kucha time hai, you can give it to some other purpose or to some other purpose, or to some other person. So if you give it to questions, which means someone can ask you a question. If you yield or give your time to comments, it means people can ask comments. And if you yield your time to another delegate, it means unke time mein wo add hoga and they'll get to speak extra. Can we watch this again later? Yes, I believe you can. Is I.R.M.U.N in Hindi or English? Like mentioned in the beginning, all of our conferences will be held in English, all right? Except for Indian committees and Mahabharata, where Hindi is permitted. But of course, you speak very respectfully and formally. What if we don't have formal dress? Just wear something normal like I'm wearing, presentable. It works. Okay. I think that is it, guys. Yes, you all can watch it later. Yes. Okay. So these are the basic questions that we received. Okay. So I hope that all of you got at least a general idea of what you all will be doing in the MUN session. And I hope that you all will attend tomorrow's training session as well, because it will help you in preparing yourself physically and mentally, okay, and conceptually for the conference that you all will be attending. I wish each and every one of you all the very best. Thank you very much for attending this session. Sincere apologies for any technical glitches or snafus that might have occurred from our side. And thank you so much for attending this session. And yes, please go through the rules of procedure document that has been sent on each of your groups. Okay, once again. So if you all read it again, it will probably help in retention, or things will become a little bit more clear for you. Once again, your executive board members or chairs are always there to clear any doubts or queries. Okay, and thank you for registering for this conference with I.R.M.U.N, and we hope you have a great time. Well, good night and stay safe.